All right, so I'm Erin Plash, and I am one of your PTO co-presidents. Stacy and I are here together at her fabulous Business Interactive. We had to get a little quiet. So my name is Erin. I have two children that have gone through Meadowbrook. One, Avery, is in 7th grade at North now, and Easton this year is in 4th grade. A little bit more about myself. We live in Golden Valley. We are an open enrolled family. I am also a teacher on the side, or I'm a PTO president on the side. I teach in an elementary school in Edina, and I've been teaching for 24 years. So this is really kind of a passion of mine, obviously, elementary education, and I've been really excited. This is our 2nd year together doing this, so we're learning a lot. Last year was crazy, but we're happy to be back and in a little bit more normal circumstances, being able to do some of our things that we've been known to do in the past. But I'll let Stacy introduce herself and then we'll get going.
Yes, so I'm Stacy Anderson. I am obviously the other co-president. I have 2 boys that are at Meadowbrook that are in 4th and 6th grade. And as Erin said, we're here at Interactive. My husband and I own Interactive, and I also took a job at Meadowbrook working in the front office this year. So I am there on Mondays and Fridays for another number of weeks here. It has been very fun getting to know Meadowbrook in another capacity. Sorry, Natalie, you just can't get rid of me. So yeah, that's about it for me.
Awesome. And we just also wanted to let you know that the chat is open, and if at any time you have a question that you want answered that maybe would take a little bit extra, like we will compile a list of those questions and give them to the appropriate person to answer. If we can't answer them right now, that chat will be monitored and we'll keep track of what's happening on that end. So with that, I want to just give a tiny bit of background. For some of you, it might be your first PTO meeting. What is the PTO? So really, the PTO is all the parents and caregivers of kids who attend Meadowbrook. And we just really want to emphasize that there's no membership, there's no dues, there's no fees. It's all just anybody who cares about kids that go to Meadowbrook and making Meadowbrook an awesome place. What we do as a group that you may call the PTO is we organize activities for the kids and the staff. We fundraise to provide opportunities to, I don't know, like fund those events, and I'm losing words tonight. Enhance and enrich what the kids do at school. We do host 4 meetings a year, 4 general meetings a year, and this is like our chance, both Stacy and I and our board, to connect with everybody else who has kids that go to Meadowbrook, and we want to hear your voice and what you want for us. We did do a survey this past summer. We had 25 respondents. Yeah. And we do have a little information we'll share in the coming newsletters to say kind of what we found in that. But overall, people really responded saying, like, we like what the PTO is doing. We want to continue what we're doing. There's a few things and areas that we want to change and that you guys have responded that you wanted to change. But being here at this meeting is just a great time for you to be able to help hear what we're doing and help shape what we're going to be doing in the future. So we'd like to take an opportunity for anybody on the board to introduce themselves. There's a few important people on here that I want to make sure to highlight. So we'll start with Betsy, because she's in a position tonight that we need to vote on as a membership. So Betsy, will you just unmute and give us a little bit of who you are and what your position potentially may be if we vote for you?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm Betsy Anderson. We have a 2nd grader and we have a 3-year-old who's in daycare. I believe I'm on the docket tonight for the role of secretary. Yes, okay. And as it turns out, I've actually been doing the work of secretary for about a year. And I think Stacy and Erin want to make it official. So, so yes, as far as what that means, I've been managing social media, helping to produce the newsletters, and Stacy just put together a brand new website for the PTO. So I'm helping to work on that as well. And maybe you guys will go into more of what that means. But I have a career in communications. I work at Perpich Center for Arts Education just down the street from Meadowbrook as their communications director. And it's been fun. Boy, as a parent of a young kid at Meadowbrook, getting involved in the PTO, you certainly figure out quickly the breadth of what the PTO does. You guys keep me busy in the best ways. So I think that's
really like your background too.
I thought it was on brand, right? Can you all see? I can send the images to you if you want to have your background be an advertisement for the PTO.
I think Erin Moore needs the step-by-step how to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll put a video together.
Awesome. How about Dave?
Sure. I'm Dave Dutcher, the PTO treasurer. This will be my third year. I'm starting as treasurer. I actually have a 7th grader now at North, Elise, and I have a 5th grader, Charlie, in Mr. K's class. That's about it.
Awesome. Who else do we have on here? Jen, do you want to give us a tiny hello?
Okay, great. Hi, I'm Jen Gale, and I have 2 Meadowbrookers. I have Eleanor in 6th grade, I have Thomas in 4th grade, and I am serving on the board for these next few years because I just finished up 3 years of being co-president, and I loved help from the previous, and I wanted to help these guys, and so on and so on. So, but I'm really excited about the hard work that all the new officers are doing, and that we're coming out of this really inactive period, and I'm just hoping that everyone's here tonight to spread the word in all their circles that, you know, these are places we can really dive in, and we would just welcome everybody. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jen. And we have Katie Long.
Hi, I'm Katie Long. I've got a son in 5th grade, Mason, and a daughter in 1st grade, Lexi. And this is my first year on the board, so I'm just hoping to learn from all these great people who have done a lot more than I have. So yeah, I'm also open to any suggestions or anything. I'm trying to bring that forward as I hear from other parents. So nice to meet all of you. Real quick.
I just wanted to jump in real quick. The introductions that we just made to you are our executive board. As a parent at Meadowbrook, and before I was real active in PTO, I didn't know what that meant. Our executive board consists of our presidents, secretaries, treasurer, a couple members at large, our past PTO presidents. We meet about a week before each general meeting that we have, and kind of make a decision of what we're going to talk about at our big meeting. They kind of help us as presidents to, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Shape. Thank you. Yes, shape. The way that PTO is going to run for the year. So instead of just putting in the hands of 2 and saying, hey, this is what we're doing, we've got these wonderful group around us. Natalie meets with us as well each and every time to just help us out with where PTO needs to go. We'd love to open it up to introductions to anybody else that is here. I will not require that anybody introduces themselves, but we would love to know who you are, and here just in the chat.
Yeah, it could be in the chat, or if you want to unmute and introduce yourself, we open that to you now. Don't need to put anybody on the spot, right? Sometimes. Some of
I'm Jenny Dennis, coming off the carnival, planning with Lindsay Girton, and I just want to say, Betsy and Dave and Erin and Stacy, you guys kind of undersold your roles because you guys provide a ton of support to anyone planning any activity on behalf of the PTO, and you all were tremendous lifelines and supporters for us. So thank you.
I will echo that. As you guys know, sorry, Lindsay Girton, also Carnival co-chair. We're very tired. But all of the executive committee was incredible. As you guys know, this was a very challenging year to plan the carnival. So we had a lot of questions, and they were incredible for helping us answer those questions, as well as just helping us with more hands to get things done. So we're very grateful.
Right, we've got some good chatter in the chat too. I'm glad you guys are introducing yourselves there. Would anybody want to, if you want to raise your hand, we can certainly call on you as well. Thank you, Lindsay.
Hi, I'm Jen Klein. Hi, I'm a mom of a
I can introduce myself. Oops.
Hi, Suzanne. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Rachel.
Yep, go ahead,
Or Jen.
Third grader Brielle and a first grader Jameson, and he's in Mrs. Olson's class. I see she's here as well. So
Fabulous. Thanks for being here, Jen.
thank
Rachel, did you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sorry, my video. There we go. I'm Rachel Olson. I am a multi-age 1-2 teacher.
Fabulous. Thanks for being here, Rachel.
Yeah.
We have Suzanne also. Suzanne, did you want to speak up?
Sure, I'm losing light a little bit, so I'm gonna switch locations. But I'm sat outside thinking it would be a great idea, but now it's just getting just getting dark. But I am Suzanne Pakenham, and I was previously a classroom teacher, and this year I'm in a new role that is new to Meadowbrook, and it's my position is called Student Success Advocate, and I am on your agenda tonight to kind of give you an overview of what restorative practices are and how we're using it at Meadowbrook. So thanks for inviting me.
And you're also a parent.
Oh, yep, that's also very important. That's partly why I'm outside. I needed to sneak out and then I'll sneak back in. I have a child in Stepping Stones, Naomi, and she'll be in kindergarten next year. And then I have a first grader, Raylan, who is in Miss Teskey's class.
Fabulous. Thanks for being here, Suzanne.
Thank you. And I'll just mention too, I was going to mention who the remainder of the board includes Cindy Scheibe, who is a parent of a third grader, Emily Gilmore, and she has a first grader. Mm-hmm. Those two positions are member at large. And then we also have, is that it? No, Nicole Macalena, who's our other past PTO president.
Nicole, are you on?
She just joined. I just admitted her.
Perfect.
So that's who rounds out our board. And so before we open it to Mrs. Sawatzky for her update, is this an okay time to do the vote first, Betsy? Since
yes,
we just
I think
talked
it
about
is.
So I think,
excuse myself,
like super formal way PTO runs, we need somebody to make a motion to vote Betsy in as PTO secretary.
So moved.
Awesome. And how about a second?
Again.
I second.
Thank you. And the easiest way to do this on Zoom is if you would like to vote for Betsy, if you can use the raise hand feature, which is down at the bottom under reactions. If you would vote for Betsy, use your raise hand feature to say you would like to include her as our new secretary. Thank you. So it looks like we have 28 participants, which would include Stacy and I, and we have, I lost how many hand raises we had. Where did that go? 18 hand raises? Does that count as a
I think it counts.
positive?
I think it counts as a positive.
Awesome. All right, Betsy is hereby voted in as our secretary. As a side note, we are looking for people who are interested in rotating through the job of note taker for our general PTO meetings. That has sometimes been a role of the secretary, and it's something that Betsy has asked that we try to find somebody who's willing to help us with that. So tonight, I think Betsy or Stacy and I will cover that, but in the future, if that's something you're willing to help with, just taking notes and then sending Stacy and I a copy of what was covered at the meeting. We are looking for people to do that. So just an aside. All right, with that, we will open it to Mrs. Sawatzky to give us a update about how things are going at Meadowbrook.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. And I can say too, I am also a Meadowbrook parent, but I only have one Meadowbrook student anymore. So I have a 4th grader, but I have a 9th grader and a 7th grader also at North Junior High. So, and the first thing I want to say is just like the hugest thank you to Lindsay and Jenny for coordinating our carnival. It was definitely like historic, and it was amazing. And they dealt with all the things that I kept throwing at them, like, no, I think we should be outside. No, I'm not sure about the food, or different things. And they just kept making the plan just all the better. So thank you so much. And I've gotten so much positive feedback. I chuckled, I fielded a phone call this week, actually. There's a parent who had, you know, a concern, but she said, but first I want to tell you how awesome the carnival was. So I was like, well, thank you. And so I feel like sometimes I get credit for all these great things that the PTO does. So I want to make sure that I express my gratitude, because you help our school be a stronger place. Other updates, I don't know. I thought I'd give like an enrollment update. We are about 860 kids at Meadowbrook. In person, we're at about 840. We still have about 20 of our students who are doing distance learning through the online Royal Academy. And so this year we welcomed 5 new classroom teachers, and they were not necessarily additional teachers, but replacing teachers who had decided to move on and pursue other things. We hired a new social worker, a new special education teacher, a couple new music teachers, and then some new positions like a data specialist, and then a few new paraprofessionals also. So it's been really exciting having new staff in the building. Other than that, I would say this year as a school community, we're really focusing on kind of 3 innovations, and they may sound familiar because you know, they align with kind of the district innovations and with District 2030 or Vision 2031. But the first would be our multi-age classrooms. So we do have 2 first, second grade combination classrooms, one taught by Rachel Olson, who's with us, and the other by Elise Juba. And then we have a 3rd, 4th grade multi-age classroom taught by Sarah Gleason. We looked into, or we attempted to do, a 5-6 multi-age classroom, but we didn't have a lot of interest from the 6th grade parents. So at this point, we tabled it for this year, and we're hoping that maybe in years coming, we'll kind of grow into having a 5-6 combination. The other areas are restorative practice, which Suzanne will talk a little bit more about tonight. And then project-based learning. And so really just what project-based learning is really taking like real world wonderings or problems and having students have some like choice and voice or interest in what they might want to learn about with this concept, and learning and creating in a way to demonstrate their learning. So I believe that we'll spend some time, you know, giving examples in newsletters, or maybe even the PTO to like share what students are creating through their project-based experiences. But it also might be language that we just spend time doing some learning as parents about too, since it's a different way to do school. So that's on the horizon.
Awesome, thank you. Do you have, we have about, I don't know, 6 minutes before we had invited the school board candidates to come on. Are you open to taking a few questions, Natalie, if we have any?
Absolutely.
Okay. So this would be an opportunity that if you have a question, you could either unmute and put it out there to the group for Natalie to answer, or Stacy and I, or put it in the chat and we can read those to her too.
Or we'll sit here in silence for 6 minutes.
I got lots of questions.
Just kidding.
Okay, yeah, Eliana.
Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Hello. Just to clarify, tonight we're talking about the restorative practices, but the multi-age classroom and project-based learning, is that not so much on the table tonight? Because I had some questions about that, but if you're going to go into more detail about it.
No, we are just talking about the restorative practice tonight later with Ms. Pakenham. So if you have questions about the others, feel free to ask.
Okay. I am curious about the vision for project-based learning, particularly how it integrates with the reading, writing, and math curricula already in place. Like, is the idea like to blend, or is it sort of like, you know what, we're going to stop using that curriculum and use PBL instead? So I'm just, not that that's what it is, but I just kind of want to get a sense of where that's all going.
That is a great question. I'm muted because there's someone going through our pantry. Great question. And I would say the integration of curricular areas is one of the reasons why we've been looking into project-based learning, so that we're not siloing our learning, but really blending and using the skills and standards of literacy also with social studies, or also, and making it just much more authentic to how kids learn. So that's really a goal of our whole district. And when our teachers talk about project-based learning, they're looking at ways to kind of break down those just like siloed experiences that kids have. This is math time, so we're not going to talk about current events during math time, or,
Can I ask a follow-up to that, Natalie?
Yeah.
So is this happening in every classroom? I think that was kind of confusing last year about how different schools were applying these concepts and in certain areas or across the board.
Yes. So this year we are spending a lot of time just learning as our staff, learning how to use project-based learning, understanding like the framework of how to, plan a lesson or plan a unit, integrating standards from multiple curricular areas. And so the expectation for staff is that they will be doing 1 or 2 units with multiple lessons this year. But with the hope and the goal of that we really transform all learning in this direction. But we're going to be, kind of dipping our toes in and getting familiar ourselves first. What I would add to that is that in our multi-age classrooms, their hand is much more forced to do that sooner versus later, because they are integrating many more learning standards and a bigger continuum of where kids are at academically. And so that is something that the teachers who are in those roles were really excited about doing, and saw how they would do that, maybe more so than teachers not teaching in those positions right now.
That's awesome. Anybody else have a question for Natalie?
I have a question. Did I interrupt somebody?
No, I said
okay.
go ahead. Yeah.
I am wondering if we've noticed that or if we've had to adjust academic standards to accommodate the kind of year or 2 school years we've had going. I have now she's still kind of a new reader. She's in 2nd grade. She had quite an interrupted kindergarten and 1st grade year. And so I worry about her being behind, and also seeing kind of, are we pushing them more now, or are we readjusting where we expect them to be?
Well, that's a great question. And I think where I come from and what we've talked about as a staff too, is that there's a lot of conversation in the news, or, you know, the national conversation too about learning loss. And I would say that our kids during the last 2 years have done a lot of learning. They just weren't skills that we thought they needed in formal education, but yet we're finding out that they actually are more important in life. So they definitely, it was a different learning progression. We are not approaching this school year as like a recovery year. We are kind of, we are meeting kids where they're at and still wanting to approach those benchmarks that we have set, yet really understanding that, you know, how we do that might mean more individualized or personalized learning for kids, because they have had a variety of experiences based on what the past 2 school years have looked like for them. So I know we're using a couple different digital tools this year too, as you know, aids in the classroom. So when we do small group instruction, they might be able to work at their pace or on their level independently. That's something that we've invested in this year too. So it's some of all of what you ask, you know, it's some of like, yes, we still have these benchmarks that we want to get to, right? But we also know that with the disruption in learning, we have to just take kids where they are and figure out how we're going to motivate them to keep them learning and really keep them enjoying school and loving the learning process. I think for all of our teachers, we know that that's the most important part.
There's one in the chat regarding this same idea, and it's from Emily. She says she has a kid in one of the multi-age rooms and he's loving it. From what she understands, it's kind of a 2-year model to get all the standards in. Will the 2nd and 4th graders starting this year be ready for the next year in this model with just 1 year in the multi-age?
Yeah, and in general, those apply more to like the science and social studies standards, because reading and math standards are very much a progression in learning. So it takes the skills and you just keep building on skills. And when you teach in small groups like our literacy curriculum is, you're doing that just naturally as kids progress through their learning. But with science and social studies having such like content specific standards, those end up in a 2-year cycle. So for example, in Miss Gleason's 3rd, 4th grade class, they're really looking at the social studies and science standards for 4th grade this year. And so even those 3rd grade students will be experiencing the 4th grade social studies and science standards. Then the following year, every student in that class will look at the 3rd grade standards. So in those 2 years that the kids are with Mrs. Gleason, they will have both science and social studies standards.
Okay, we're still here. Oh no! It just got dark here at Interactive because it's 7:30 and the lights go out at Interactive at 7:30. Oh, here I am.
Sorry, my business closed.
So we don't have any kids running around in the background, but we are in the dark. Thank you, Natalie, so much for taking questions on the fly. I know that can be kind of hard, but it's super awesome that you are so accessible as our leader, and we really appreciate your openness and willingness to take our questions.
I'm always impressed at how easy you are to contact and quick to give, well, good answers. I don't want to overwhelm you even more with that, but I like to encourage people to reach out to you when they have issues, because you really are very responsive and easy to talk to. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and I'll put the plug in. I would rather have you call me or email me than post your question on Facebook because I don't always see it there. So give me a call or email me and we can get your answer much faster than if you post
Call
it
me
on.
in the front office and I'll send you to Natalie.
Awesome.
Well, perfect. Well, we have a few board members or board candidates here with us tonight, and I am so thankful that you guys all took some time out of your nights to join us. I think we have 4 of you that are here. We have Jen Bouchard. I'm sorry, I don't remember everybody's last names. I have Jen Bouchard, I have Rachel Hartland, Dave Larson, and Jason. Jason, what's your last name?
Ross.
Jason Ross, thank you so much. So we invited them to join us tonight to give us a quick intro to who they are and your why for becoming a candidate for our school board this year, our amazing Hopkins School Board and all you do for us. So
We'll just go in alpha order.
yes, so Dave, can we start with you? Can you give us a quick intro to yourself and why?
Sure, I can. Did I hit the right button so I'm not on mute? Okay.
We can hear you.
Sure, good. My name is Dave Larson, and I've lived in the district for over 40 years. I have 3 adult daughters, all of them who have gone to the Hopkins school system, Gatewood, West Junior High, and Hopkins High School. I'm surrounded by teachers. Actually, I was a board member for 4 years, my first term, and that was from 2016 to 2019. I had the privilege of being on the board that selected the current superintendent, Superintendent Rhoda Mary Perry Reed, and just so proud of that particular selection. I mentioned Rhoda just indicated that she just finished her 4th year as being superintendent. If I see her, I'm going to ask her, must feel like 6 years. This has been a really hard time for students, for teachers, for the staff and everything. I put my name because I don't run against incumbents, and there are 2 openings, and I've got experience, and I think this is a perfect time to begin to try to get back to normal. You know, this is the beginning of a new school year. And my basic mantra is that we've got to learn to adapt to change. There's been change. So I actually stopped by Meadowbrook Elementary yesterday. I, like others that are running, stopped by the, I have to look at CCX Media. They cover the area out Plymouth and the Golden Valley. They gave us 45 seconds to tell us why we are going to be such a good member of the school board. So they're going to, I think I talked to Shannon, was the person doing it, and she expects to have that going early October. Also, the Q&A from the Sun Sailor will give you a better background about why I'm running, the qualifications, what's the top issues. To me, the top issues are always involved the students. You know, we've got to get back to normal. This is going to be a really tough year. I think my 4 years experience will be a real asset. My 3 planks for all of this, they haven't really changed a lot. Let's see, it's student achievement is still primary. Fiscal responsibility is still a necessity, and support for teachers, staff, and administration are just in their work environments essential. So you put all those together for the students. So that's basically, I don't want to take, I know this is a 15-minute segment on yours. I think I've taken my 2 minutes or whatever. Thank you again for inviting me. I welcome you to, look at all of the material that's going to be put out about me through the Sun Sailor. They come out October 4th, or let's see, the 7th, the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th. So there will be more voter guides than you care to count. But thank you again for inviting me, and I'll turn it over back to you 2 folks Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thanks so much for being here, Dave.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so sticking with our alphabetical order, we'll move on to Jason. Can you introduce yourself and tell us your why?
Good evening. Can you guys hear me? Awesome. So my name is Jason Ross, and I have 3 children who attend Tanglin Elementary. I have 2 third graders and 1 kindergartner. What I'm focused on and why I'm running is the 3 particular reasons. One is I'm running for mental health and wellness for all of our students in elementary through high school. I'm also, for number 2, I'm focused on ensuring that we have equitable resources for an educational standpoint distributed to all students, available for all students. So ensuring that all students have a brilliant future and are able to pursue whatever they want to do in their future based on their talent and based on their God-given gift that they have available. Number 3 is working with our Citizens Financial Advisory Committee to address the funding gap and to be able to help close that gap with our district leadership. So being able to work in concert, in collaboration to be able to address that. A little bit about myself, my 9 to 5. So I work for Michael Foods in the food manufacturing. The reason why you probably notice my nice lighting is that my son is with me right now. He's going over some cards. I just finished coaching his soccer practice. So what I'm hoping to do is be able to get my face and name out there, meet with all the constituents out on the campaign trail and be able to walk them through in a little bit more detail. If they go to jasondross.org, that goes through and highlights in more detail why I'm running and how I hope I could bring more awareness to mental health and wellness, and then be able to champion and amplify Vision 2031 to be able to push it to the next stage. Again, I want to thank the Meadowbrook PTO for allowing me this couple of minutes to introduce myself and for me to be able to speak with you guys tonight.
Fabulous.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason, so much. On a note of sharing your website, I would love each of you to send me any info that we can share after the meeting as well. We'll include in our notes. We could also do a Facebook post, Betsy, to get just a little more info out there for those who aren't here tonight. So thank you so much. Jen, we have next.
Hi, well, thank you so much for the warm welcome, and it's such a pleasure to be in virtual community with everybody tonight. I am Jen Westmoreland Bouchard. I currently serve as chair of the Hopkins School Board. I was elected in 2017, and that was right around the time when Dr. Mary Perry Reed had just been hired by our fabulous board that was serving at the time, which included Betsy Anderson. And we were starting to form our collective vision. So we were starting to do all of that community engagement and ideation that eventually led to Vision 2031. And so it certainly was an exciting time to become a board member. And little did I know what the next 4 years would have in store for us as a community, right? And so, you know, as we've navigated the pandemic over the past 2 years, I've been trying to balance my role as a board chair, as a community advocate. I'm a full-time faculty member at Normandale Community College, and I am the proud parent of a 5th grade scholar at Jingjing Academy. And really, you know, what happened throughout this incredibly challenging period is that it really edified for me that I'm in the right place at the right time doing the work that I really want to be doing in this community that raised me. I am a proud graduate of Hopkins Schools, class of '97, and I've lived in different places throughout the world. I'm an international educator, and when it came time to raise my child, Hopkins Schools was really the only choice. And so over the past year, I've done a lot of discernment whether or not it was the right choice to run for the board again. And I'm just so passionate about continuing this collective work that we've started and that we've made so much progress on over the last 4 years. So that's my why. It's because this collective work has to continue. And I'm so grateful to be a part of it. So if you visit my website, it's jenbouchard.org. You, of course, can learn a little bit more about me, but more importantly, you can learn about so many of our community partners who have been an integral part of implementing Vision 2031. So I have around close to 40 community members who are supporting the campaign publicly, and their photos and a little blurb is on there. I also have written more about them on my campaign Facebook page. And so just really trying to drive home this message that this work has not been done alone, and it takes all of us working together, fabulous leaders throughout our district, like Principal Sawatzky, and phenomenal parent and caregiver leaders like all of you here in the PTO. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jen. Thank you for your current service too in this crazy time. We have one more candidate here with us tonight. Rachel, can you go ahead and give us a little intro and your why?
Hi, yes, absolutely. I would love to, and thank you, all of you, for this platform, for giving us a few minutes. My name is Rachel Hartland. I do have a website and a Facebook page. I will include that, or I will send that on to Stacy and Aaron so that it can be distributed to everybody. But I am a Meadowbrook parent. I have a 2nd, 4th, and 6th grader, all in the Meadowbrook community. And additionally, I have several professional roles, and they directly influence some of the reasons that I'm passionate about running for the board. I am an American Sign Language interpreter, and I am absolutely passionate about the idea of access to information and the concept that everyone should have a place at the table where decisions are being made. We have such a wealth of resources in our community. Our community is so diverse, so many languages are spoken, and we are underutilizing that network by keeping the board's good work kind of contained to Facebook posts and occasionally the community hearing about big contentious decisions. And so one of the things I would love to do is be a voice for the board that communicates in the Meadowbrook newsletter. And for all of the schools, I would love to have a board corner. I like writing. I do that periodically in my various professional roles. And so I would love to talk about what's coming up. And then I would like to talk about what we did. And it would be amazing if that information could be translated into other languages. I use American Sign Language. I would be happy to do that interpretation. It would require work with our community to get the rest of that information out, but that is a project that is very near and dear to my heart. Additionally, I am wildly excited about Vision 2031, and especially the couple ideas, a couple of our pillars of innovation, which are making strategic partnerships and fearless teams that are unafraid to fail. And I am an entrepreneur, so I have my own ASL interpreting business. My family has a tech consulting business, and I also am a co-founder of Koya Blue Craft Tequila Cocktails, if anyone's into tequila cocktails. And so this idea of making strategic partnerships, I use my professional network every day. Literally every day. I'm asking people questions. I'm figuring out how things work. I'm asking what the best possible course of action is every day. And this helps me immensely. It's another project that is dear to me, and one that I think would help so much in our schools and directly relates to these two pillars. And I think that the fearless teams unafraid to fail is the part of our vision that sets us apart from all of the other kind of visions by various names of our surrounding communities. And this idea that we could use project learning, we could use experiential learning to find out what works for a student and what doesn't. And what's more is that We can celebrate what does work, and we can look at what doesn't work as a fact of life, as education, as that's something that you know about yourself now, and it's nothing bad. That idea of getting to celebrate failure, of getting to reevaluate information and make decisions and use your resources, I do that constantly. I'm passionate about that, and I would love to talk about that more with the board. Additionally, I have some legislative experience, and that's a little bit more boring to talk about than tequila cocktails, but I would love to talk about any and all of those things with any community members. And I want to remind everybody that the election is November 2nd and early voting is already open. So please vote for us.
Thanks, Rachel. I appreciate
Thank you,
your time.
Rachel.
Send us your website too, so we can include that in our future updates. So I appreciate all of the board members. There was one candidate who did not join us, and that is Sarah, V-A-Y-E. We did invite all the candidates that are running, just for, fairness and equitable opportunity for everybody running. But yes, we do encourage all our Meadowbrook parents who are in district to vote. So if you're out of district like myself, you don't have an opportunity to vote in our Meadowbrook or our Hopkins board, but you should also go out and look at your home district and go ahead and research and look into those candidates as well, because at least from my experience as a teacher, the board is a really super important part of the school community. And it's really awesome that we have such involved people that are willing to help us out.
Absolutely. And Jen did just post in the chat the recording of the League of Women Voters Forum. Thank you, Jen. That's a great piece of resource. Thank you. Piece of info.
I'll email that as well, so you don't necessarily have to grab it out of the chat. I'll include it in my email to you.
Perfect.
Oh, thank you so
Wonderful.
much.
Well, again, thank all four of you for coming tonight. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your night. You are welcome to drop off without looking rude by any means. So thank you for being here. And Suzanne, we're going to throw it into your hands and let you take over for a bit.
Okay, awesome. So again, I'm Suzanne Pakenham, and my new role at Meadowbrook from classroom teacher to now is student success advocate. And I went to a restorative practice training with both of our principal and assistant principal this summer, and Meadowbrook, and I know Hopkins in general is really focusing on using restorative practices as a more positive way to get to know our school community and within our classrooms, which then helps us when we do need to have conversations about any conflict. So I've never used Zoom, to be honest. I taught virtually using Google Meet, but I'm gonna attempt to share my screen so that you can see these charts. So bear with me. Do I click share content?
Yes, I believe again, I'm not a good Zoom person, but I think you can share. I have
Okay,
that.
screen. No, it's gonna happen. Okay. All right, it says stop broadcast, which means I've started it.
I can see your screen. It says you are sharing.
Stacy or Aaron, you can see it?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, perfect.
Or I can see it.
Awesome. Okay. It's trying to present. Okay, so restorative practices, it's a paradigm shift from traditional discipline to restorative practices. And RP, or restorative practice, is an alternative approach to justice that views misbehavior as something that causes harm to relationships and community. So restorative practice focuses on creating community and building relationships, and it allows for accountability, acknowledgement, empathy, and healing. And then if you look at this graphic here, it sort of shows traditional discipline versus what restorative practice goals are. And Natalie, feel free to chime in at any, but in a traditional discipline setting, school, the harm that's done is based on breaking school rules. And with restorative practices, it's based on acknowledging the people and relationships that were violated. Again, with traditional discipline, justice focuses on establishing guilt versus identifying the needs and obligations to repair the harm done. Accountability equals punishment versus accountability equals understanding the impact of a student's choices or faculty's choices and how to repair that harm. Justice directed at the offender, while the victim, and I use these words differently when I'm working with students, but for the sake of explaining the difference and the paradigm shift that we're working on, I'm going to use these words. But in a restorative practice, the offender, victim, and school all have direct roles in this process. In a traditional discipline, rules and intent outweigh whether the outcome is positive or negative, versus the offender being responsible for the harmful behavior, repairing the harm, and working towards a positive outcome. And then with traditional discipline, there's no opportunity for remorse or amends. And in restorative practices, opportunity is given for amends and expression of remorse. I actually like the other slide that's next. I'm going to switch it for next time. But in our regular classroom setting, there's different levels of working in restorative practices. So there's tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. So our tier 1 is happening in all of our classrooms, where the goal is to build community and get to know each other more deeply than normal, so that when there is need for deeper conversations, there's already that comfortable sense of belonging for students. And when meetings start, each time it's really important to respect the indigenous roots of restorative justice, so that if we are not culturally appropriating this way of, I'm losing my words right now, this way of restoring justice or building our community. So the foundational practice of restorative justice is talking circles. So when you meet for any reason, restorative setting, you're sitting in a circle so that everyone's at the same level. There's not one person who appears to be more in charge of the conversation or is more at fault in the conversation. We're all at the same level. The foundational principles of restorative practices are rooted in relationships and community. The foundational belief of restorative justice is that misbehavior harms people and relationships, and that justice means repairing harm and restoring harmony within the community. So this, each meeting starts with some sort of acknowledgement. So here's one example, is that we acknowledge and appreciate that these foundational restorative practices, principles, and beliefs come from many different indigenous societies around the world. And I know a lot of teachers have been using this sort of format and way to start meetings to also teach about some of our Minnesotan Native American tribes, and that's been really neat to learn about as well. Any questions before I go to the next one? I can't see anybody when I'm presenting, so I feel like I'm talking to nobody, so that's why I feel a little like I'm just talking.
It is hard. It is hard.
Yeah, I
I
can't see you.
Put questions in the chat. Erin and I are keeping an eye on that. So if questions come up as she goes, we are certainly happy to jump in and present any questions that are typed.
Perfect. And if any of you have had a face-to-face conversation with me, I feel much more comfortable with that than just looking at this screen. So I look forward to seeing your faces in a second. So these are the tiers that I was mentioning before. So tier 1 is where we build and strengthen relationship, and that is happening at minimum 2 times a week in each classroom. And part of my role is to kind of help facilitate or get classrooms started doing this. And I will tell you that Meadowbrook teachers are really good at this. When I have had to do small circles with students, they know exactly what to do. They're really comfortable sharing their voices already. And that's because it's a setting that they're used to, format they're used to, and they respect the talking piece, which I'll talk about in a minute, so that they each feel heard and valued in the circle. And then tier 2 is when we respond to conflict or harm. So that would mean it can be a whole class setting if something happened and the entire class involved. But a lot of times it's with, 2 or 3 students when there's maybe been some sort of harm caused, whether it's physical or teasing or some sort of comment that made people uncomfortable. And there's a set of questions that you ask at each one of those. So each person participating in the circle, I can't remember them off the top of my head, but is asked what happened from their perspective so that you hear everybody's. Sometimes that's kind of eye-opening students. They didn't even understand how their peer saw the situation. And so that can lead to really amazing conversations. And then there's a few more to sort of figure out how any harm that was done can be repaired. And sometimes students come up with a lot more valuable ways to approach fixing any issues than I think adults do. Much deeper than a tradition. That's been really cool to see. And then we also tell them in circle that whatever's said in circle stays in circle. And so if a conflict isn't solved or they need to talk about it again, they go back to wherever that circle happened and meet with that circle keeper or whoever helped run the circle to have the conversations there. And then lastly is tier 3. And that is when if a student needs to be removed from the classroom or when or needs to spend some days outside of school, they have another conversation with similar questions before they re-enter that setting so that they feel comfortable and so that anyone involved feels comfortable. Any questions about the tiers? Okay.
I didn't see any in the chat. You can keep going.
Okay, thank you. All right, circle basics. So this is image of a circle happening in a classroom. This is not a Meadowbrook classroom, but they look very similar. And in the middle are what are called talking pieces. And sometimes teachers have them on hand. Sometimes like the star of the week is given the opportunity to bring something in, or multiple items are always there. And what that does is when a student is ready to answer a question, whoever chooses to go first picks the talking piece, and whoever has that is the only person who gets to talk. And that can be tricky for teachers because by nature, we want to chime in, but it's really neat when we don't to hear students' perspectives. And then when it's our turn, that's when we can kind of guide some of the things that we've heard. A centerpiece, so to sort of create the setting and the middle of the circle to make it feel more authentic. The circle shape is really important so that everybody's on the same level and can see everybody. And then there's a circle keeper. And right now that's mostly been the teacher, but as the year goes on, students can become the circle keeper. And then circle agreements. This is really important because students can come up with it as a class with their teacher so that they all understand what they are and they all agree that this is the best way for students to feel comfortable sharing. And you could even ask your student some of their circle agreements, and I bet that they have some really solid answers for that. All right, and I think that's the end of my slides, and now I just have to figure out how to get back to you and see you. Oh, okay, stop sharing. Okay, I think I did it.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Suzanne. That was very helpful. So
okay,
we had one parent
I
just
feel better
ask,
now that I see you.
Yes, we had one parent ask that she was interrupted by bedtime. And just clarifying, Natalie did answer that this is happening 2 times per week in classrooms, but just wanted to confirm with you that this is something happening day in and day out at Meadowbrook. And I know
all classrooms.
in seeing you guys interact with students, I know this is happening often. Also, I wanted to, Suzanne, if you could share just a little bit, we have discussed potentially integrating this in with families and having some outside of school conversations. We've had a lot of feedback from people that equity and inclusion is a big component that we think PTO can do better on. So Suzanne we've had some wonderful conversations with her this year, and we want to continue those conversations in school, but also have some outside conversations with parents and families, and continue the conversation there as well. So we're hoping to be able to use these same practices and have us as adults practice them with or without our students. So I didn't know if you wanted to share anything more about that at all. Suzanne.
Sure. Yeah, so I've been talking with PTO, and one thing we'd like to do, and it would be outside of a PTO meeting, and we'd make sure that it was accessible to as many people as possible, but having an event or an evening or whatever time frame we decide to have a circle with adults and with families and with parents, so that they can kind of see what their students are participating in each day. And then also it's a good opportunity to gather data. And one thing that both PTO and Meadowbrook and Hopkins in general, and particularly in my role, what we want to make sure is happening is that schools is accessible to all of our families, and that everyone feels like their child is being advocated for, and that they are receiving equitable services regardless of any outside factors. So working to remove barriers, and part of that is gathering data from families about what barriers they're running into, or what maybe makes them more comfortable at school or less comfortable contacting their teacher and things like that. And a circle would both help them see what their child is doing and also have a safe space to have these conversations.
Thank you. Yes, Natalie, did you want to add anything to that?
What I was going to add was that, so yes, we're working on doing this with our students, but we also are offering staff circles monthly. So in addition to our monthly staff meeting, we are doing circles for staff. And, you know, part of this comes from a wellness piece, in that knowing what families and students and staff members have experienced over the past 2 years is overwhelming. And, you know, making sure that we are taking care of ourselves allows us to take care of our community. So we've had a really great response from our staff participating also. And like, I didn't know that I needed it as much as I do. And so I just think it's a really exceptional practice. And I personally, and I don't know, I may be overly optimistic here, but I feel a difference in our school this year, despite having more students than we did last year, despite being, you know, back to normal. Conflicts happen, but they are resolved, and we're not seeing a lot of the repeat things that we have had in the past. So there's some good data coming forward, but what my goal is, or what my hope is that it really is about kids feeling more connected in a time where that's more important than ever.
Absolutely, for sure. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share with us. Heather, I agree. Heather says, that gives me goosebumps. We appreciate the work that you guys are putting in, and we love being at Meadowbrook. So thank you so much.
Let's see. So that kind of, I know we're running a little bit over our typical hour, but we wanted to give an opportunity to the carnival people, the carnival leaders, to give us Jenny and Lindsay, to give us a little update about how things went and what they're going to look forward to for next year. I know they have a survey out, and then we would just have like 2 or 3 minutes of little updates of upcoming events, and then we'll be done. So Lindsay and Jenny, we will let you guys give us a little update.
Yes, we have a couple slides prepared, and we will just whip through them, knowing that we're tight on time. I'm not new to Zoom, but I'm new to Google. Oh, did that work?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, so here's a quick recap for everyone for the carnival. So we had 7 community partners, 14 sponsors, 200 plus volunteers. We sold 400 plus snow cones, 1,016 wristbands, 1,380 Meadowbrook Adventure tickets sold, and we raised just over $14,000 for the PTO, which was really exciting because, like Natalie said earlier, when the curveballs came, Stacy and Aaron said, focus on community gathering. Don't worry as much about the revenue. And yet the revenue still came, which was really exciting. So we had a lot of change for 2021, as I think most of you know. So I'm going to hand it over to Lindsay just to outline this.
Awesome. So I think everyone is well aware that we held it outside this year. That wasn't our first choice, but obviously it turned out really well. And that is the number one thing that we got positive feedback on, is that people loved it outside. And in fact, we had people tell us, never have it inside again.
Or I'm not coming. Those were actual words.
Yeah, we heard that loud and clear. Got it. We also had the Hopkins food truck for the first time. So many of you may not know that we work through the Hopkins Nutrition Services for all of our food. It's part of the district's policy. So to move outside, they had a food truck that they used for other events that they brought on site. We also did sponsors for the first time ever, which generated more than $2,000 in revenue for the school. And it also was really nice because for some of you that have been here a few years, parents used to have to bring in the cereal and the munchies and the drinks for some of our games. So it was really nice to not have to ask parents to do that amidst the chaos of a new school year. We also added some new community partners. We like these a lot because they bring an activity to the carnival that is interesting and fun. They provide their own prizes and they provide their own staff. So it doesn't take away from any of the volunteers that we need to operate different parts of the carnival. And then we did unlimited wristbands. We did this mainly because of COVID reasons, to avoid having a ticket card that was then passed back and forth between the ticket takers and the students. We always had kids that lost their cards and were crying. So it actually worked out really well this year. So we will continue doing that. We also got very strong feedback that parents loved the unlimited wristbands because kids weren't coming back begging for more tickets or that they lost theirs. We also were able to leverage the great work that the Meadowbrook Mingle team did. They used a solution called ClickBid, which they already paid for this spring. And so we were able to piggyback on their annual membership to allow us to do sponsorships that way, and then also to buy the wristbands online. And then we added some new activities this year: dunk tank, a giant slide, sack hop, mascot photos, and a book walk. And all of those seem to be pretty popular.
So like Stacy and Aaron mentioned, we had surveys go out. Sorry, I was talking away. Okay, Lindsay, are you driving? Is someone touching this? I'm so confused. Sometimes my dog does this, but she's not next to me. Okay. We had 124 responses from attendees. They liked the outdoor venue, the community feel. They liked the DJ. The music was too loud. Lines were too long, especially for Eat Street. We are taking those concerns to the Hopkins Nutrition Services Department tomorrow and already starting to talk about how we can make some changes for the future, at least start thinking about them. People liked the unlimited wristband option, like Lindsay mentioned. They enjoyed the community partners, top activities, flare hair, the giant slide, face painting, dunk tank, and the cereal walk. Interestingly, parents wanted more opportunities to meet other parents and staff, especially newer Meadowbrook families. So that's something that we will consider in the future. And then volunteers liked the I volunteered sticker, which was our goal. Our goal was to kind of showcase the people who are pitching in to make the carnival happen.
So we are having a lot of conversations and brainstorming and reviewing feedback from the survey results to determine how do we make the carnival better. It went pretty well this year and we're pretty happy with it, but we always know we can do better, especially with some of the lines with Eat Street. So a few of the things that we're looking into is, number one, how can we make Eat Street more efficient? How can we serve more people faster? How can we streamline the payments for Eat Street? We have a lot of opportunity there, and that's probably where we had the biggest amount of negative feedback. We also will work on line management for some of the popular activities. A lot of people have said we need more face painting, we need more giant slides, we need more bounce houses, we need more flare hair. And so we're looking into, is that possible to do that, or is there just a better way to make those activities faster, or just do the lines differently? We also are looking at how we do volunteering. So we know that there is a core group of volunteers that always help out whenever we have an event. And we're so appreciative. We also have a lot of parents that maybe aren't as interested in volunteering. And so we're trying to figure out how can we help fill some of those volunteer roles and do more outreach to some of the caregivers that haven't volunteered before. One of the ideas that we saw again and again from the survey that we sent out is aligning certain games or activities by grade. So like this, the giant slide is going to be sponsored by or staffed by the third graders. So if you're a parent of a third grader, consider staffing the giant slide. And it also addresses the request that we had from parents to meet other third grade parents, for example. So we're going to look at ways where we can try to make that a little bit more efficient, do more community building, and help try to more efficiently fill some of our volunteer positions. We're also looking into shorter volunteer shifts. Some people have asked for that, but then that also has a need for more volunteers. So we're trying to balance that out as well. We'll be working on making signage and wayfinding a little easier and more prominently displayed. More communication and better communication around wristband distribution. We had a lot of people that were very interested in paying cash on site. So we're going to have more options to make that happen for next year. Some family meetup points. Everyone had a great time at the carnival, but it sometimes was hard to reunite at the end of the evening. So we'll have some ideas around that. We're looking at more community partners and then some additional activities to help spread out some of the lines.
And that is our quick carnival recap.
Thank you guys so much for all your support.
So awesome.
Thank you so much for all of your work.
Yes, somebody said we considered reaching out to Meadowbrook alum, current middle school and high schools to volunteer. And what's funny is having a 7th grader, Avery and her friends had signed up to volunteer with me, and they all just wanted to be at the carnival because they missed it. They didn't have one in 5th grade or 6th grade. So I feel like that's something that we can get middle schools to come back and high schoolers to come back and do. I feel like somebody at one point had a connection at the high school with like the National Honor Society to try and connect in with that group, or even the student, I lost a word.
Government?
They call it student council or like student government.
Yeah.
They like, there's a group of people that's already involved and would be a great person for us to reach out to there.
Yeah. And we also know at the high school, there is a volunteering, I don't know if it's a requirement or a class where they are supposed to do a certain number of volunteer hours. So we have spoken to the counselors about that. We actually did have several high schoolers volunteer this year, which was very fun. You may have seen them as Leo the Lion. And then we did have a lot of middle schoolers come back and volunteer too, like you were saying, Erin, that they missed it. So the 7th and 8th graders were happy to come back, but I do think that there's more opportunity there.
Yeah.
Thank you for that update, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, well, our last 2 little updates is just that Stacy and I are working really hard with Betsy to keep communication going. If you have any ways or ideas for us to make sure we're reaching all families.
A quick note on that. New website. We have a new, Betsy, can you put it in the chat for me? Thank you. A new PTO website this year that we actually have access to and can update, which, you know, seems like such a simple thing, but amazing. So we're really gonna try and use that as our like main point of contact. So every post that you see, Betsy's directing you back to the website. And that's kind of your go-to place for anything PTO that you have questions about, so.
Yeah, so for upcoming things that we're working on, we have Jen Gale, and they are working with Pam Harmoire, I think, is the last name. I might be saying that wrong, but they are working on our adventure for the classrooms, and we're working on a virtual way to do that. We're still in a pandemic and a COVID world, so we do have to kind of adjust and monitor each event as it comes. And the next event on our calendar would typically be bingo. And so we're working with the school and talking for ways that we can find to be safe and have bingo. I should speak clearly. It will not be a community event where parents come into the building and play bingo as we have in the past. But we're working on looking at some potential ideas for an online family game night, or even just having the kids play bingo at school over the loudspeaker altogether. Just creative ways to make sure that we're still providing that fun and interest for the kids.
I will say a big part of that is we do not have a committee to plan bingo at the moment. So I have had a couple people express a potential interest in bingo, but if you or anybody you know has a passion for this event in the past, we could really use a handful of people to be creative this year and find some new and fabulous way to host bingo for Meadowbrook.
Yeah, if you have passion around that.
A passion or bingo.
Tomorrow night is no, not tomorrow night, it's Tuesday.
It's
Thursday night is a restaurant night.
And Thursday all day really is restaurant day. So Papa Murphy's in Golden Valley. They are greatly preferring online orders. So order your Papa Murphy's from Golden Valley and use code GIVE, G-I-V-E, when you're doing your online order, and they'll donate 20% to Meadowbrook PTO. So pizza night, pizza lunch, pizza breakfast for late start day, who knows?
Awesome.
I think that's. And then Friday, after you've had your Papa Murphy's on Thursday, Friday is your last day to order your Meadowbrook gear.
Yes, it is. Meadowbrook apparel. Thank you so much, Betsy.
Which is also a Meadowbrook family.
Yes,
that
it
is helping us out with the gear, Green Boy brand, and that link is on our website.
Yes, it is.
And in the newsletters.
Thank you, all of you, for joining us tonight. I love the turnout that we had this evening. I appreciate you all being here. And visit our website. Let us know if you have questions. We are always available somehow or another. And we would love to hear from you. So thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, everybody.